Okay, everybody, let's get started on our webinar today. Indigo.Design App Builder, how to build apps blazing fast. So we have a product that's been in a preview now for quite a while, private preview, then a public preview. Many of you may have experimented with it yet, but our official release was last week. And today you're going to get a glimpse of what we've done since the public preview. You're going to see an amazing demo, and you're going to look or get a peek at the roadmap and what we're doing with App Builder over the next quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 12 months, etc. So this is pretty exciting for us. And today we've got a good team with us. Myself, I'm Jason Barris. I'm our Senior VP of Developer Tools at Infragistics. Also, George Abraham, who many of you have heard before, giving demos on Indigo.Design. He's going to walk us through a demo today. And then Konstantin Dinev, he's our Director of Product Development for all of the UI controls that are in the product, as well as the design tools. So he will also be on the chat with the rest of us, as well as talking about the architecture a little bit later after the demo. So you'll get an understanding of what we're doing here and where we're going with this product. So we think that as soon as you see this demo, you're going to be like, where do I go? How do I start using this right away? We think it's pretty groundbreaking in terms of developer productivity, and we're super excited to get this into your hands. So the goal here is helping you design and build applications blazing fast. So Indigo App Builder at a high level, and you'll get all this throughout this presentation today, is a cloud-based WYSIWYG that lets you use drag and drop to build complete business apps. What you're going to see, and there's a link in a white paper we're doing, is, hey, click here to see how you can get from design to code in under a minute. That's the goal here, is how quickly can you get from nothing, a blank slate, into something useful, usable, desirable, branded in your company theme or your custom theme of choice into code. How quickly can you go from a sketch design, an Adobe XD design, a Figma design to real code? This is a unique product in the market. We've been working on it for a while. And what we hear a lot is from people like, oh, this tool does code, or there's a plugin for Sketch that helps me get code. It's all garbage code. The code we're producing is production ready, testable, editable, GitHub ready code. Like, it's not a bunch of primitives with a bunch of lines that make up a grid. We have AI and machine learning in the product to take something that may have been absolute position designed into a flex layout that will be responsive for the web. So we are far surpassing anything that is on the market today in terms of that real design to code story. So we're trying to help not only developers, but design teams and development teams be more productive. So today we're going to focus on a lot of the dev story around the app building. But overall, when we look at Indigo.Design, the story is really to help your team build product faster than before. So why is this so important today? The biggest thing is teams need to be more productive. I talk to customers all the time. The biggest issue with management is, how can we accelerate getting from this idea into something that we can get in front of a customer? Designers are using tools today, and they can create things. And maybe you already have a design system or they're starting from scratch, but most of the time, whatever they're designing cannot be translated into real code. That's the problem that we're addressing. That's the gap that we're filling. So Gartner research says that 60% of the time of an app dev process, so digital product design process, is on the user interface. That's where most of your bugs are as well. That's where most of the interactions issues are. That's where most people decide within a few seconds that they do not want to use your product, or they love your product. So how can we help you get to that faster? And then the biggest thing is, when we talk to design or developers, is they're doing .NET, they're doing rich client, or they're doing legacy ASP.NET web. Modern HTML layout, modern CSS is very hard. There are no WYSIWYG tools. We're addressing that gap. And what we have is studies that show App Builder can help you deliver apps 80% faster. So if you can cut out 80% of the hand coding, repetitive, mundane, boring code that you write today with drag and drop, click data binding, click let me get some code, then you're going to see immediate value. Your team will see immediate value, and you can start delivering those applications faster. And the big message here is, because we're starting with the design system that is mapped to UI components, no matter what your design team designs, you can ensure real code. Or let's say you don't want to use anything that they design and you just want to start with a WYSIWYG drag and drop tool in the web. Great, you can do that as well. We do not restrict your workflow. We give you options on the workflow for how your team actually wants to work. So I'm going to go through a few slides on how this works, and then George is going to do a demo. So if I go through these slides a little fast, it's because the demo speaks really to 1,000 words, picture's worth 1,000 words. And I really want to highlight that. So the key thing is here, no dependencies. This is a cloud-based WYSIWYG. You go to Indigo.Design, you click sign in, and you can start building an app. You don't have to install anything. You don't have to download anything. It's super easy to get started. The other thing that we did is we modeled the user experience off of tools that you're used to using today. So if you're a design team, this looks like Figma, Sketch, Adobe XD. If you're a developer team and you've used Visual Studio, you've got a WYSIWYG drag and drop with a toolbox. You've got an HTML outline. You've got a property editor. So you're walking into an experience that you're familiar with. So you shouldn't really have to think about this big learning curve on how to get started. And then to get started, we've done a couple things. We've got preset layouts. So do you want to have a blank slate? Do you want to have a header nav for master detail? Do you want a sidebar nav that flips out, header plus sidebar? So you can start with that and then start dragging components or adding child pages so you get the screens that you want in the routing. Or what most people like to do is there something that I can start with that you've already built and then I can modify it? So today we have 3 sample apps. In the next few months, this is going to grow to 30 sample apps. So we're just going to keep pounding out different scenarios for you to start with your next application so you don't even have to think. So super easy to get started, and that'll show through the demo today. Of course, all this is possible because we have a toolbox. You can drag and drop stuff from the toolbox onto the design surface, just like you do in Visual Studio, just like you would in Sketch. So if you're maybe over 40, you probably used, or maybe over 45, you've probably used Visual Basic in the past, or you've built Windows Forms apps, or you're maintaining those legacy .NET apps with a WYSIWYG drag and drop tool. We're bringing that to the web, and we're bringing that to single page modern application development where you don't have to hand code this anymore. WYSIWYG, drag and drop, get me to my result with a few clicks, super easy. Another killer feature, and this is one of the most exciting things about this release, is we have always allowed you to go from a sketch design into our prototyping in Indigo.Design. Well, now we've added additional workflow. We allow you to go from a sketch design right into the app builder with real components. So you do not have to worry about, okay, I have a sketch design. How am I going to get this over to an app? Just import it. So today it works with Sketch. Shortly following, we're going to ship Adobe XD and Figma support. So this saves hundreds of hours of time, and it's an incredible feature, and we're looking forward to your feedback on it. And then, of course, any real app isn't useful without data binding. So we have a whole data binding story. You can connect. We have mock data, sample data with the product, but you want to connect to a REST data source. You want to upload a JSON file. You can do that and start adding that data binding, and then we generate the code. So if there's a repeater or a data grid, you're not hand coding a bunch of, or hard coding a bunch of values. It's actually real data. And then we're going to expand this in the future to support SQL servers, Excel files, hierarchical OData, you name it. So there's a lot going on here, but apps are valuable when they're real, and we're helping you build a real app with the tool. And then theming and branding is always the biggest issue. Is how do I get this to look like the application that my marketing department mandates? Well, we have built-in themes. So of course, material, we have a material-based UI component set and design system. We've added the addition of Bootstrap and Fluent UI. And it's not just the colors. So as you'll see in the demo, material has a certain look and feel and roundness and elevation and typography. When you apply Fluent, it looks like a Fluent design. So the way a switch looks changes, the display density changes, the roundness change. It looks like something that you would build with Microsoft's React toolkit, right? Because that's Fluent UI. So we've done all this work that goes beyond just colors. It's around branding. It's around layering. It's around elevation, colors, or fonts, etc. So that's what's neat about this. And of course, light and dark. You don't like what we're using? Create your own. We have a custom theme option as well. And then the killer feature, if you're a developer, is real-time preview of the code and the app. So everything that we're doing is being built behind the scenes. So when you click preview, it's the running app. You can navigate, you can see real data, and then you can see real code. Today, we allow you to get that real code via copy paste or download a zip file. In the future, you're going to see us add a capability to sync it right to GitHub, sync it right to Azure DevOps. So then we introduce a two-way story where an update can happen in the app builder, and then you're going to merge that request with the actual code in GitHub. So we're not stopping with just, hey, look at this beautiful code. It's like, what is my workflow as a digital product team? And what are the things that I would expect? And what you'll see today here, yeah, one click. All you got to do is download it, npm install, and boom, you've got the pixel perfect application. You went from literally design to code in a single download. So again, super easy, super exciting. And if I had this when I was like doing jQuery apps back in 2000, whatever, this would have been amazing. But now with Angular, with React, with Blazor, we're bringing this WYSIWYG to you, and you'll see in our roadmap what you can expect as we go throughout the year in terms of frameworks and platforms and all this other stuff. So with that, I'm going to stop my share. I want to hand it over to George so you guys can see hands-on in real time how this guy works. So, George.
So what Jason said during his intro, I'm just going to do the same thing, but a lot slower. So let's just get started. For people who have not been following up with us or not part of our public preview, what I'm going to do is take the first 5 or 6 minutes, just trying to do a level set in terms of what App Builder really has to offer. But as Jason already pointed out, the Indigo.Design is a digital design platform, and the App Builder is the newest member of this family. And the whole premise of App Builder is once you actually end up creating an app inside the App Builder, and this is an app I created inside the App Builder using the default theming option, the components from the Indigo.Design UI kit, you can see real-time code preview. And then when you actually end up generating this particular app, it generates it as a complete zip file. And I have the zip file opened inside Visual Studio Code here. And what basically I did is once I have this folder open, I went into the terminal, it npm install and npm start, and that pretty much gives me an example of the quality of output you get in the finished app. As you can see, this is like running locally on my machine. It has routing already implemented. And the promise we offer is when you actually look at what we show inside the preview and what we are actually generating for you, it's literally pixel perfect, right? And this level of promise is what allows you to start using the App Builder in its all its capabilities without actually having to worry that when the development is going to start or extend your particular application after generation, they would have to clean up, make tweaks to the CSS to make this actually happen. So if you're seeing the App Builder for the first time, let me give you a quick walkthrough of the UI. On the left, we have the toolbox. The toolbox contains all the components we offer inside the app builder. Then we have this notion of a master view and child views, because this is actually a single page web application development platform. So every child view is being hosted inside what we call a views container. If you're familiar with Angular, this would be like a router outlet. And then I have just basically set it to show my tasks child view as the default view when the app loads. And then I have additional views which are living under it. The master view contains all the app Chrome, the shared elements. And then I have my independent views, which have been laid out using flex layouts. So everything ends up being very fluid out of the box. Then Jason talked about theming. Theming is based on the design tokens approach, such that you do not actually do localized styling. So that's just not scalable. When you're talking about very large apps, we want a very quick way for you to go ahead and click once, and that's it. My app is completely themed. And this is what Jason was referring to, is that even though I'm using the theming capability, a lot of changes has happened down to the typography. And if I want to create something brand new, I just come in, create a brand new theme. I say I want it to be based on material. I can generate my primary colors, but just because I'm generating primary colors, it doesn't mean I'm generating only 2 colors. I'm actually generating an entire palette of colors based on my selection. I'm just going to select these 2 here and just hit save, and then it'll take a second, and then it'll just skin the entire app using this new theme I just created. And it's now available under custom themes. And if I go back to my views list here, we still support allowing you to add local colors or specific colors to a value, but I can always override it. And in the color picker, it continues this design tokens approach, where the color palette is what we are offering anybody who ends up using the app builder to basically make their designs consistent without actually having to change the individual colors. So I can just set it to a different color, and I hit preview. And now my app is a completely different color scheme. And if I switch this to a dark theme, I can go back to my themes here. I can edit my theme, which is a custom theme, and I can say I want it dark, and then update, and then everything is dark. So you do not actually have to do individual styling for anything. The other things in my toolbox are data sources, right? And we provide some mock data sources in here. And the whole idea of this mock data sources is that if there are certain components which are data bound out of the box, so for example, it could be a combo or it could be a grid. So let me just show you how that looks. I open a new view and I add a grid component. And this is like a quick add feature if you've not seen it before. It's the same as drag and drop, but I can invoke it from anywhere using Control E or Command E for everything. I can just say I want a grid. And then it's automatically populating it based on data, because that's the one which we have provided out of the box. And I can change the data property here to pick something else. So I can say, show me employees, and now it's bound to employees. And the same thing happens for other components like a combo. So if I say, give me a combo, you'll see that that too is bound to data, but now I can specify some more parameters for it. So I can say, okay, what is the value key and what should be the display key? And then my combo is already rendered with this data, and you have a real component actually working on the design surface. One thing which underlies all of this is layouts. And we have implemented Flex as one of our starting points for layouts. So I'm just switching on to a different app just to show you what that looks like. So here I have a child view, which has this sign-in dialog, which has been created. And of course, we have relative spacing, margins, and paddings in order for you to space out elements. But we have Flex, so I can just change its location on the screen by just switching around what the canvas is actually revealing. I can say, hey, you should be on the top. The horizontal align should be on the right. And I can move elements around, but I can also set something using the position property. I can say, hey, you're absolutely positioned. And then I can go pretty much crazy in terms of where I want to position it. And we have all the normal web-based positioning stuff like relative, fixed, sticky. All of these things are available to you. Let me just move this out. All right. So there are a couple of things which are brand new. But by the time we got to V1, we were not able to show it for the public preview. And that's pretty much around data sources, right? So let's just do that. I'm going to create a brand new view here. And in here, let's add a card. And all our components are structural. They're also driven by a design system. So it has presets built into it for some of the common scenarios we have found. For now, I'm just going to stick to default. I say I need an avatar because that's what I'm going to show you next. And then I say I do not need my content block. I don't need actions. I just want a simple a card here. I'm going to give it some margin all around. And I'm going to show you what the data story looks like today and what it shows off inside the code preview, right? So for this particular component, I'm going to bind it to a custom data source. So for that, I can come in here. I'm going to create a brand new data source with the REST API. And I can add multiple sources here. I can add a URL, or I can upload a JSON file. For now, I'm just going to do JSON. And I'm going to drag this mydata.json. Oops. I don't know what's happening on my Zoom. I can just pick it just as easy. And then when I go to select data, it's showing me all the fields, all the data fields which were discovered in that particular collection. And we have this option to override this. We look through your data and we recommend that that's a string variable, but you can actually change that to something else. I see select all, hit done. And now I have my data available for me here. And once I have this on a data source bound to this, I can go ahead and repeat this based on data. I can say, repeat this based on data. I'm just going to pick the Northwind. I have these two data sources. I'm going to pick Northwind employees. And we can change the number of records you want to show during design time. During runtime or preview, that's not actually preserved because that's not how we would like to generate code. But because I have it bound to data and I'm repeating based on data, I have these connect to data options showing up here. I can select it and say last name. And for the subtitle, I can say, give me title. Yep. And then for the avatar, I can select it and say, I don't want the icon type. I want an image. And in my data source, I have a URL for the image. So I can say URL, avatar. And I have my cards repeated based on data. And as you can see, this is spilling over. But again, this is just web. So I can just select the canvas here and say, why don't you wrap and then scroll? And when I hit preview, all my records are now being shown bound to data. And when I look at my my code generation, you can see that it's just generating as simple as you expect in NG4. The H3 tags are bound to last name. The card subtitle is bound to the item.title, right? The other thing you will notice when I'm hitting preview is that it's actually rendering the whole app as you expect it. So it's including the things from the master view, and then it's hosting the child view under it. And since I do not have any links between them, we still support the ability to add a router, connect a router link to that new view we just created. So for that, I can just come in here, add a button, and I set it to something here. So I can say, keep it centered. Oh, let me get rid of this guy here because it was, and I can say navigate to. Just going to show you an example of navigate. And we have this ability to add an interaction on click. So it says on click, navigate to, and I can pick this new view I just created. And that's it. Now my router links are also active. I can click navigate and it would navigate to that particular view. And I also have pre-configured this navigation to these templates here. So I can just click on these to show it off to route to that particular direction. Or I can come in here, go back to my master view, add a new link. And this one, I would call it demo. And then I can set it to navigate to the same child view. And now it participates in this action to navigate to that demo. So that's basically how data sources work together with repeat and how the layout has been implemented to allow you to reflow content based on the data we've been adding. So there are a couple of new things in terms of interactivity, which we added. So let's go back here and add another button to this one. And we're going to do 2 buttons here. For one button, I'm going to show off our dialog component, which is another dynamic component. So let's just name this show dialog. And for this one, I'm going to call it something else and say hide. So I'm going to show you 2 actions which are different from the router navigation approach. One is to show content which is dynamic and shown on in an overlay, and the other one is to hide elements which are already visible on that particular view. So to add a dialog is the same approach. I can select the dialog here, and this is a new component which we added. And when the moment I drop the dialog, you would notice that it shows off inside an overlay, and you will see that inside this view, all the overlays are actually now living inside a special area here, which you can access at any time. So if I go up 1 level, you have access to the design surface. Let's add another dialog. And this time, let's just name this. Let's call it dialog 2. And like all our components, these have presets. So this is the confirmation dialog. I have a generic alert dialog. And then, of course, we have custom dialog, which allows you to add anything you like inside this dialog area. Let me go back to my alert here. And for some of these presets, you'd see that it automatically comes with some of these interactions. So it is automatically bound to an open or close kind of an action. And that is one of the 3 options we have here. We have the navigate to, which routes. Then we have the open and close, which basically deals with components which are shown in an overlay. And then we have show and hide, which I'm going to show you shortly. So once I go up this level, you can see now there are 2 things inside this overlay, and I can just hover over it to see which of these dialogues I want to edit, and I can select it, and now I have access to editing this particular dialog. So using these kind of interactions are broken down into 2 parts. The first is you need the components already set up, and now let's go ahead and add the action which triggers this dialog. So go back here. I have the show dialog button. I add a new interaction. I say open or close. And now we automatically filter your list of components for things which belong to the overlay. So in this case, which is the dialog and the dialog 2. So in this case, I want dialog. And at this point, I'm pretty much done. I hit preview. I hit show dialog. My dialog shows up. And as I reminded you earlier, these are pre-wired, but I can always override it. I can say OK, and that dismisses the dialog. Again, now let me talk about the third kind of interactivity we have, which is the show and hide. So say that there's this content area here. I don't want to show it when I click this button. So let's do that. I can say click on hide, add an interaction. And this time, instead of open close, I'm going to say show hide. And now I have 2 options here. Either I can pick a component which might have been previously hidden in this outline, or I can target a component which is already visible, right? So I can click that, target that component. And then at this point, I'm done. I can hit preview, and it'll basically toggle show and hide when I click on it. And the show dialog shows up in an overlay. So that's basically the new interactivity capabilities we added. I also showed you some of the dynamic components we added, like dialogues. And then, of course, our customers during our public preview were asking for components like a tab, which is also something which we've added right now. So let me just set this up to my top area here, and I say tabs. And we have right now implemented the tab layouts component. And then shortly, we'll be adding the tab routing component, which is used purely for navigation. So in this case, let's just do this. And now I can go ahead and I have access to the tab content area. The only difference between tab layout and tab navigation would be in tab layout, the content block comes with the tab, and then you have access to add anything you like in here. So in this case, I can add a calendar here just to show this off. I add a calendar in this one and go to the first tab, and I'm going to add a card. And now you can see these are tabs which automatically linked content areas, so I can control what's being shown when I'm running these tabs. Then on top of all of this, you're seeing just the app builder experience, but we also now integrated this app builder experience into the cloud.indigo.design. And what that allows you to do is if I switch to cloud.indigo.design, you see, as I showed you initially, this was like the starting point. So you can actually click a sample app, and we actually have the sample apps ready for you to try out this whole, quickly get an app, see the code preview, generate the app, compile it to see whether it's working out for you or not. And then on top of that, we have everything now available as a private workspace area, which only contains things you have access to, or you can have a group workspace where all these other apps live. So for example, this customer success is a group workspace area, and all the apps I'm creating are basically living inside this group workspace area. And the benefit of this is that I can actually have activity tracking. So it knows what's happened inside this app builder area. And you have access, like if somebody accidentally deletes a prototype or deletes an app or a prototype or a study, you can always restore it from this group workspace. So I've left the coolest part for now. And let's talk about the whole design to code journey if you happen to start with tools like Sketch. So I have this app, my Sketch app here. And in here, I have this people app which has been created. And if you're unfamiliar with how the Sketch workflow works, is we have created a UI kit, which is accessible to you from this getting started area. You can download our UI kit. And once you have downloaded and installed this UI kit, what it allows you to do is instead of creating designs with Sketch primitives like rectangles, ovals, you're actually using our UI kit library with all the components I was showing you in the App Builder toolbox. So if I want a button of some kind, all I go and say, hey, I want this button, drop it, and then you go ahead and design your screen using these buttons rather than trying to create this button from scratch. Once you're done with this particular prototype, we of course encourage you to test your designs, to show it with your customers. And that's possible because we have a plugin installed, which allows you to both approach theming from a design tokens approach, or just publish this prototype to get a URL, which you can send it to anyone, and they can review this prototype in the cloud. And we have done previous webinars just showing off that workflow. If not, we'll share a video showing you that particular workflow. Once you publish this prototype, it lives in the cloud. But now let me show you how it happens if I just want to get this into the app builder as a functioning app. So I have created this sketch file, and now I'm going to go into my app builder. I'm going to create a brand new app. And when I was creating a brand new app, maybe I never showed you this dialog initially. I have this option to either start with a sample app or pick one of the default layouts. And the layout I was using during this demo was this header plus left nav. So it's already set up. I'm going to instead use a sketch file to basically migrate my designs into code. So let me do that. Let me find my sketch file here. I have this people.sketch. I'm just going to drop it in here. And this is where our sketch adapter, which is the same approach we will use for XD and Figma. This adapter has all the brains to kind of convert what we found inside a sketch document into something which the web expects, because that's something which is not immediately apparent to some people, is that vector design tools like Sketch, they actually have a completely different positioning system, which is mostly absolute. And you can create all the groupings you need, but this does not exactly translate to web. And this is where the brains behind this sketch adapter works, is that once I have imported this particular app in here, of course, you don't see some of the images. That's only because this is not bound to anything right now. But when I look at my outline, you will realize that we have actually generated some additional layout components you would need in order for this to work in a Flexbox fashion. So for that means, if I go into my preview area, you can see that it's all scaling as you expect it to scale on a web, right? And this stuff takes a lot of work. And this is something which designers struggle with initially, but developers are used to approach this. But some people are still new to CSS and Flex. And so this approach would let you learn whatever design has created to translate it automatically into components. So now you can see this is a real list. This is an actual avatar component. This is a badge component, and everything is laid out precisely as it was laid out inside the Sketch document. The only difference is that in Sketch, everything is a separate artboard, and we maintain the integrity of it so that you're not surprised when you come inside the app builder. So all the artboards are automatically available as a separate master view. And then you can, of course, take in one of these components and say, okay, I'm going to create a brand new master view here. And then in this master view, I can say, you know what, this nav bar, it should really be here. And you can create that shell and add the router outlet the same way I'm adding here. I say views. Hold on. Set this thing to. I can add the views container here. And now I can say, okay, where do the child views come from? And I can add a new view and just copy over the assets I have from my individual files here, just this part. I don't need anything else. And it's a lot faster to do it this way and not have to recreate all of these things. It's just a quick copy paste and then you're good to go, right? So this sketch import is only going to get more and more powerful, and it's going to save you a lot of time in trying to jumpstart this and eliminating this artificial handoff, which has, I mean, it's a constraint. We have worked around it using handoff tools like Zeppelin or Code Inspect, but we have always found that to be still a painful process because you have to still hand code things, even if you're copy pasting CSS. Because what happens is when you generate the code, we still want to generate code which is consistent, it's maintainable, and it's updatable as if it's a real Angular application. So with that, I'm going to pause a bit. Jason, is there anything else you wanted to showcase for our viewers today?
Nope, I think that was awesome, George. Thanks. We have about 20 minutes left. I got a few more slides. I want Constantine to talk a little bit, and yeah, we'll just we're answering questions in the window. So I'll go ahead and reshare my screen. That was great, George. Thank you very much. Let me share. This will stop others. Yes. Okay. Desktop to PowerPoint. There we go. Share. You guys can see my PowerPoint now?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So yeah, what George just said, like the good luck doing that with Zeppelin. I mean, Zeppelin is like very limited in capability. In fact, we have Zeppelin features already in Indigo.Design if you want to get imagery, CSS, etc., spacing. But this is actually removing all of the hand coding. And that's where we get all these big numbers from. If you don't need to do all that yourself, it's pretty incredible. So what I want to do now is let Constantine talk about the overall, very high level architecture of what we're doing here and how all of this works together. So Constantine, I'll let you talk to this slide.
Thank you, Jason. Hello, everyone. After the beautiful demo that George did, I'm just going to talk more, theory and architecture behind the entire story that we're trying to deliver. And the reason why we want to show you this is for us to prove to you that this is not some kind of a patchwork, but it's actually a solid foundation that we're going to keep building upon. and that we're going to keep developing and delivering more value to everyone through this platform. Now, we have this concept at Infragistics. UIs should be beautiful and UIs should be user-friendly. And at the same time, UIs shouldn't be hard. And when building applications, especially in the web, on the web, sometimes apps take up to 85% of the development time into adjusting and building a UI, and just 15% into the actual business logic, which is the true value behind your application. Now, is UI important? Absolutely. Your app is not usable without the UI. But should you spend 85% tweaking CSS and HTML? Absolutely not. And this is what this platform is about. It's about building UIs fast and making them still beautiful and usable. Now, when we built Ignite UI for Angular at the beginning, we started from a simple UI kit. And that was the driver. Like, designers drove applications as designs through this UI kit in order to display to us developers what exactly they want to achieve and what exactly customers want to achieve with components that we're going to build. And so we use these UI kits in order to build the components themselves. Now, since we have the UI kits already and we utilize them internally, we can actually utilize metadata that comes from these UI kits for Sketch, for Figma, for XD, in order to generate what we call a common application model. Now, a common application model is an agnostic description of a web application. It actually doesn't even have to be web only. So the common application model tells us what views there are, what are the screens, what are transitions between different screens, in a way that doesn't tie us to any particular framework. So currently, the app builder is actually built in Angular. And when you're running your design surface, what you're seeing on the design canvas is actually not a vector design, it's a running Angular application. And that's why we produce for you a pixel perfect result in an Angular app currently, because the same code that is running in the app builder is actually what you get as you download the application that you've WYSIWYG designed in the app builder through the code gen. Now, since we built it this way, the code gen doesn't necessarily have to produce only Angular. As long as we have component representations in other frameworks, we can generate from one and the same app builder design different code outputs. And so right now we allow you to download Angular because Ignite UI for Angular is our most advanced front-end product, web product currently. But shortly in the future, we'll allow you to build web component applications, which are pure HTML, and output them through the app builder. We'll also allow you to build React applications. We'll allow you to even build Blazor. And so this is the true power of this tool. And the other thing, currently, the end story through the app builder is you download the app. Well, in the next few months, we're actually going to be able to not just download it, but also send it directly to your GitHub repository. We'll create the repository for you through APIs. We'll be able to update this repository for you through pull requests as you update your app builder design. And Indigo.Design also has other stories like prototyping, usability studies. We also are planning to add full support for that through apps built with the app builder. And Jason, that's what I had.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Let me get my video going again, and we'll just continue on. A couple more slides. A lot of questions on roadmap. Hey, what's next? Do we get this? Do we get that? Again, roadmaps somewhat aspirational once you get past about a week. So we have big goals this year. And we usually are pretty solid on our Angular side roadmaps, on our Indigo.Design side roadmaps. So some of this stuff we've started, some of it we have to polish yet, but the immediate feature set is going to be around getting more components and then this Adobe XD and Figma support. So we already had questions today. When does XD come? We get it. Everyone uses XD. What you saw today with Sketch, you'll get the exact same capability with XD. This is going to ship in Q2, probably in the later part of Q2. But the goal here is we're shipping continuous delivery. So we are a continuous delivery engineering process. So you'll be seeing updates constantly. Some smaller ones may sneak in, some bigger ones may sneak in, but these are the time frames that you can expect. I mentioned the app gallery templates. We're really going to blow that up. If you've ever looked at our Dribble repository up at Dribble.com, we've got like 100 and some beautiful designs up there. We're going to start segmenting those into verticals and then publishing them as updates. So you can just open them up and boom, start with one of our designs there. Improve flows, sorry, with prototypes. George mentioned this, but let's say I'm using an iterative design process and my team is syncing between Sketch or XD and our cloud. They're doing user testing. Well, then the team says, hey, we're done. What you'll be able to do is just go in there, click the prototype in the cloud and say, edit in App Builder. And then boom, you're editing this just like, a pretty amazing process. So that's going to be slick. Constantine mentioned GitHub integration. And then moving on throughout the rest of the year, we're going to absolutely ship React Web Component Blazor support for code generation, different data sources. And then this also came up in the chat. We have two other things coming this year, an on-prem server update, which includes App Builder. And then we will also have an embedded SDK. So we have a bunch of customers that have asked, can I take this whole App Builder thing, white label it, and stick it into my own application? The answer is yes, we will ship that. That's going to be potentially bleeding into Q4, but we're looking at between Q3 and Q4 to ship both of those features. And then just you can see continuing on to some bigger support for third-party design systems, et cetera. Then moving into next year, we have this whole vision behind design system management, UX writing, spec writing right within the tool so you can communicate more fluidly with stakeholders and customers. And then looking at, third-party integrations, product management tools, project management solutions, et cetera. And as Constantine said, this is built and designed as a platform. This wasn't just like willy-nilly, let's do this thing. So you'll see us publish APIs and extensibility options throughout the year as we get more feedback from you and as we start using more of these tools internally at Infragistics. So we have a pretty healthy and a pretty exciting roadmap. A bunch of questions as well, pricing, availability. If you are an Infragistics Ultimate customer, you have this already. Just go to Indigo.Design, click sign in, and you're there. Click the apps tab, new app, and you're ready to rock and roll. If you're a professional customer, Infragistics Pro customer, you've already gotten an email. We're discounting upgrades. If you just own Ignite UI for Angular, it's pretty cheap to just go ahead and upgrade to the App Builder. So you have all of this is an option to upgrade, or you may already have it in your subscription, but it's available today. Go to Indigo.Design and try one of the samples. It's literally that easy. Everything George showed you, it's open season. So that's really what we want you to do. We want you to try this today. There is nothing like this on the market. It's absolutely incredible that you can start just churning out these single page web applications, with drag and drop, just like, VB6. And I think someone mentioned an even older tool in the chat earlier. And as Constantine said, it's 85% of your dev time is spent on that UI. Gartner has all this research on it. Forrester has all this research on it. We want to give you that time back so you can focus on important things and do more. Your backlogs are huge. Can we help accelerate those backlogs with App Builder? I hope so. So try us today, Indigo Design. Constantine and Danny, who is the product owner for this, is also on the chat. You may have saw him answer some questions. Feedback at Indigo.Design goes right to the product team. Feedback at Indigo.Design. And then HTTP Indigo.Design is where you can sign up. And I want to thank everyone for coming today. We're right at about a few minutes before the hour. The chat seems to be all taken care of. We'll leave it open for a couple more minutes. But that's it. And thank you, George, for your demo, Constantine and Danny for answering all the questions online. And I hope everyone tries out App Builder. And I want to thank you for attending today. Thanks.